And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another week, another edition of the Korean StarCraft League KSL week number 51. Oh my god, it's good to be back. It's great to be back here once again for some more Korean StarCraft action. And this is, again, a little bit different here. We've been making a trend out of this. I promise that we'll be able to cast this live eventually. But for the past 2 weeks, we have been unable to cover this. Again, the weekend was jam-packed. Our weekend was just full of StarCraft. I think we had 6 different broadcasts over 2 days. My sleep schedule was all over the place. It was all over the place. Because of that, I was not able to cast the KSL live. Otherwise, it would have been 7 casts over the course of 2 days, which would have been intense. But in the end, I wasn't able to cast the KSL live, but we have the replays. For those that are curious, KSL is usually held on Saturdays at around midday KSL, 1 p.m. here in Australia. But I was on more of an EU sleep schedule at the time, and I just was not able to cast this. I think by the time I woke up, we were already in the semifinals, so I'm like, you know what, so good. Take care of yourselves. You know, I gotta stay up for like WTL and Logic Games and MSO and STC and all this other stuff. So we're here covering the replays, going over the replays here of the Korean StarCraft League. If you maybe watched it live or maybe watched the VODs, don't post any spoilers in the chat. This is going to be your first and only warning for that. Others will be timing out, maybe even banning, depending on how egregious it is. But we're going to be focusing on catching up on this week's KSL. Again, if you want to support the KSL, !KSL in the chat, you will get a link to the Patreon. There's a Patreon where you can help support and fund the Korean StarCraft League. Again, we have been actually hearing that the KSL has actually been losing some steam. I mean, the KSL used to be weekly. It used to be a weekly tournament. Now it's a bi-weekly, and even then, I've heard that it can't quite sustain itself as a bi-weekly model. So, if you wish to support the KSL, if you want to continue to support or interested in, you know, supporting the Korean StarCraft scene, you know, if you're passionate about StarCraft, consider checking it out, consider supporting in some way, just because I do know that they do need some support to keep this going. Otherwise, there are other there's other plans in the works potentially to have it in a different way. I do know that they're working on things. They're working on things to maybe kind of give more attention to it and maybe promote it in some way. The Patreon, I mean. Promoting the Patreon. But until then, we're focusing on some StarCraft. Here we go. We have our first series here. We're going to be jumping into the quarterfinals. We have 3 quarterfinals matches first, followed by the semifinals, followed by the grand finals thereafter. There's going to be a break in between the quarterfinals and the semis, just so we can take a moment to get some water, to stretch our roaches, to hydrate our hydras, and massage every one of your marines. For now, we're jumping into Classic versus Oliveira. Let's go. Do have a TVP, and again, it's been great to see all these players returning. Of course, I believe some others did take part. I know that players like Trap and Rogue recently came back from the military. They have been competing in ESL Open Cup Asia. When it comes to KSLs, I'm not too sure they've dabbled too much into them. Again, they're very high profile tournaments, and there's a lot of high caliber players here, like these two here, as spawning in the top right hand corner of Alkion. And we have our red Terran player from the land of China representing CranKy Z Gaming. It is Oliveira. And spawning in the bottom left hand corner, we have as opponent, we have the blue Protoss player representing Twisted Minds. It is Classic. Here we go. Again, we've been seeing quite a bit of Classics PvT as of late. Oliveira has been struggling a little bit more recently over these past couple of weeks, has been having a really hard time kind of gaining ground. But what's most important as well is that this is the last KSL before DreamHack. DreamHack is in a couple of days. It's in like, what, 3-4 days time? So this is a really good kind of glimpse into the form of all these players coming into DreamHack Dallas. A lot of these players are traveling. A lot of these players are going to be competing in the open stage of DreamHack Dallas. The open stage was announced publicly, I think today or yesterday, but it is out there. It is out there for all to see, so you can have a look at the lineups and all the players that are traveling to the open stage. and the open stage is looking insane. You got players like Creator, Solar, even some of the Europeans like Laser, Skillet, Kellezer. They've all been traveling. They're all going to be competing in that open stage alongside some more local players as well. You know, players like Dolan, Foxer, and many others from the land of the Americans. They'll be there too. Maybe we can go over the bracket at the end of the broadcast. I think it'd be fun. It'd be fun. Go over it later on. For now, we are going for a double gas opener. Double gas opener leading to a faster factory here from Oliveira, going for a delayed expansion. Meanwhile, Classic back at home, opening up Gate Cyber Expand. Nothing crazy here. Pretty standard openers all around, other than the fact that Oliveira is going to be delaying his economy here in favor of being a little bit more secure and a little bit more aggressive early on. Speaking of Reacted Reaper. Okay, it's looking like Reacted Reaper Hellion here from Oliveira. We can go up to 3, maybe even 5 Reapers, depending on how aggressive Oliveira wants to be. We'll see when he stops making Reapers. That's really what I'm looking for. We have 2 for now, but do we make more than that? Back at home, it's going to be a Stargate opener. This is a very classic thing to do. It's a very signature trait of Classic, for those that have noticed. Classic very often won't throw down his tech in the main, but will try to hide it here at the natural with mixed success. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Again, it's a bit of a more unorthodox location for the tech and the pylon, but it does maybe keep it hidden. It also allows you to fortify this position a little bit faster as well with that second pylon. Ooh, as the Reapers do engage, and the first Reaper goes down already. Uh-oh. Rough start. We are making additional Reapers behind this. See, that does shade into the main base. We get eyes on the Reaper Heli in production. We do not delay the CC. So Oliveira, he's getting his base up and running on the low ground. Did bleed out a Reaper, which is brutal, and he's going to be building that back up, and will soon be moving out across the map. Now, the purpose of Reaper Hellion is to get economic damage done, but because of our already built up on SimCity that's soon to be amassing here, we should be able to wall up and defend in time. We'll see if we can, as Reaper Hellion is moving out. It's going to be triple Reaper, double Hellion. Behind this, we're transitioning into Widow Mines, Marines to fortify ourselves back at home. Widow Mines for maybe an eventual drop with a medevac. Oliveira has potential. There's our SimCity. Oracle does arrive, and do we spend our energy back at home? That is the question. Hellions, they do take down one of the Adepts. Have fallen so far. You can see that the Oracle has yet to really spend any of it. So Classic has been very patient with his first Oracle, and this is interesting. So it's going to be Oracle first into Phoenix. Hellions, they dip back in, and oh, they don't quite get eyes on the producing building. So for all Oliveira knows, it could be even double Oracle into a Twilight Council. There's no confirmation of Phoenixes yet. Back at home, should be getting ready, is aware of the Oracles, and we have Marines getting in position. You can see here they're in between the bases to react in time, or to ideally react in time. Phoenix on the way, Oliveira getting to his 3-1-1 setup. Back at home, there's our medevac. And we have a mine, we have 2 mines. Oh, scattered about the map here. Okay. Hoping to get some of those connections. We'll see if we get lucky enough for that. Phoenix moves out. Spotted by that Zolnaga, and the Widow Mine is here in position, but don't move out across the map, not yet. Back at home, Classic getting his 3rd base. We have the Bay on the way, working towards Phoenix. Not really Phoenix Colossus. The Oracle moves out. Focusing down the Hellion, pulling back. But yeah, we only made the 1 Phoenix. Only the singular Phoenix, which was scouted, by the way, at the Zolnaga. Was spotted. But we're cutting Phoenix production and investing quite heavily here into a gateway-based army with the boat, with the robotic spay. Oh, there it goes. Oof. Widow Mine goes off, does connect. Not a bad shot so far. Up. Oh my god. That takes 2 shots to kill the Phoenix. And that second Widow Mine is still out there. Still like it waits. Up. And we do get it. Up. And the Phoenix does go down. A very nice positioning here out of Oliveira. Shuts down the first Phoenix. Back at home, without any Phoenixes, without Blink, drop play could really pop off. If Oliveira were to invest into drops, which he can't right now because of the revelations, but if he did, like there's no Phoenixes or Blink Stalkers to shut him down, Phoenix production is recommencing as we speak. Here comes our first drop. Medevac on the right hand side. Back at home, we are built up to 2 Immortals. We still have a pretty robust army, but Classic stuck at home. Because of this build of choice, we're kind of stuck building up back at home, getting a 3rd base, working on a 4th as well, building up a Death Bull of an army. This means that Oliveira, he can expand. If he wanted to, he could try to get a 3rd base and land, and there's not really much that can stop that 3rd from getting up and running. For now, though, Oliveira is sticking with 2 base play. 2 base play for the time being. Army is moving out. Medevac poised to dive into the main. Now, the army is spotted by this Adept, and that's going to be the cue for the Oracle to go in as well. So the Oracle into the natural, drop into the main. Phoenix does miss it. The Pylon, I believe, did spot that Medevac. Here comes the Oracle. Oh. And we'll get a couple of SCVs here at the natural at the same time. Oliveira tries to push in, but we have a Colossus. We have a Colossus, we have a shield battery, we have an overcharge as well. Drop into the main base. Probes are going down. And we do have position classic. We focus down the shield battery. Oh, but that's 2 Colossus. The mine shots. Ooh. Decent connections here on the center of the army. And the Bio army has to avoid this force. And we should be able to pick up and get the hell out of here. Where's the anti-air? There barely is any. And we just pick up and leave. We get 9 probe kills here in the main base. We pick up. We're actually going for the 3rd. Oracle across the map was cleaned up. And they got a handful of workers. And it looks like Oliveira does get the hell out of here. Just regrouping his forces. Won't be able to land under the Colossus. If he had some Marauders, it'd be a different story, but it's mainly Marine. So we do have to be careful going for the Phoenix. Oof. Yeah, but we have to respect this army, and Oliveira will back off. But that was some good damage. Again, 9 workers in the main. Picks up some gateway units. Double drop here towards the natural. There is a Colossus in position. No shield battery. That was not replaced. But Oliveira, he spots the army. He does back off. And we're calming down. But again, this is the strength or the weakness of Classic's build or his army composition is he can't do anything about these medevacs. Like, they're free to just bounce around, to maneuver across the map. How many Phoenixes are we on? Only 2 Phoenixes. As Classic is still hyperfixated. Getting a 4th Colossus? Oh my god, that's crazy. He's working his 4th Colossus. We have a double Forge on the way. We have the Twilight Council on the way as well. For our upgrades, and I imagine Blink. Potentially, we might skip it and just go straight for Charge. Back at home, Oliveira getting his 3rd base up and running. And not just that, we're taking up into Viking and Ghost. He's getting into his ideal army composition, still working his way up, but the Vikings are going to be ideal, especially against a heavy Colossus-based army. With 4 Colossus, Vikings are going to do so well against this. I mean, we need them. We'll need them. The army is spotted. Oliveira has to be careful. He cannot fully engage this. Oof. Takes a couple of swipes. Just have to back off. Classic taking a 4th. Looks like he doesn't quite want to commit, and this makes sense that Classic wouldn't want to because he just started his upgrades. He just started 1-1 and Charge. So until that kicks in, Classic is going to be chilling back at home and taking a 4th. Meanwhile, Oliveira can take this opportunity to get his own 3rd base up and running. 4th CC is on the way. Oh my, that's a lot of Vikings. That's double Starport production, and that is 10 Vikings already. We're making 4 at a time. And again, they're going to do so well for Oliveira. Scandario is the 4th that had just finished, just getting saturated. Viking sharking around. Classic working the 5th. Wouldn't will spot it. As the army is spotted, Oliveira moves out. He's where the positioning of Classic's main army. How many Vikings do we have? 14! You have to be very careful with how we engage. Ideally, you want to kite with these Vikings first and pick off 1 or 2 Colossus before the fight occurs. And we'll see if we can. You see the Vikings are sharking around. And they do get a volley off. Ooh, they get a Phoenix. They get both Phoenixes. But again, we're looking for the Colossus. Remember, these Stalkers don't have Blink, so they can't really punish these Vikings anywhere near as they otherwise would. Blink just started. Disruptors, they just began as well. I say just began. The Disruptors, they just popped out. And that will complicate things. There are going to be Novas available for Classic. Back at home, War Prism drop into the natural. Vikings, they push in. Do they get 1? They do. They pick off 1 Colossus. There's 3 left. Drop into the actual SCVs are going down, and Oliveira doesn't have much at home to defend. We go for a big warp in. We deny the warp in just in time. The Vikings, the MVPs. Prism gets shut down, and these delta will eventually be cleaned up as well, but Classic is moving out. Oliveira, thankfully, is retreating, so he doesn't engage while he's distracted. Cleans up the Zealots, so now he can focus on the main fight. But you could argue that these Zealots, they did enough. They killed a couple of workers, but they forced back the army, and they allowed Classic into Disruptors. His disruptor count is getting higher and higher as we speak. No longer is he heavily reliant on these Colossus. They're heavily exposed, by the way. We need to calm down and back off. But no longer are these Colossus the end-all be-all for Classic. Now he has those Novas. Now he has disruptors. Armies going to be bouncing off each other. Oliveira rotating around. Collapsing on the army. Vikings going ham. 2 Colossus go down almost immediately. And how good are the Novas? The splits are even better. We get a full surround. We clean Classic up. This was not the place to be. We land the Vikings. And Oliveira will shut this all down. The Zealots, they're putting in some work. Disruptors, they come out, but too little too late. They get targeted down. And Classic will lose everything. And from here, there's no reason to turn back around Oliveira. We gotta go. Send it. The Zealots and Stalkers back at home. Blink is just now finishing. But too little too late. Disruptors are on the way. Vikings, they can land once again to help buffer. Yeah, those Chargers, they're putting in a lot of work. Oh my god. A lot of work, actually. Nova goes off and deals some friendly fire. Hot pick up there from Oliveira. Sieges up his Liberators. He wants to go for the kill. Oliveira does not want to back off. He knows how close he is to breaking Classic. And he does break through the main army. Yeah, depower, denies the warp in. Denies it for a second time. We just want to warp in, Fatty. The slow warp ins are brutal, and the third base is going to fall. Classic can't afford to lose some bases here. But he has no army. He needs time. He needs breathing room. He's down to 2 disruptors. First Nova went off. That's the second Nova. Doesn't connect. And that's all we had. Oliveira could go for the natural. We're opting to back off and go for the 4th. Going for more secure damage. Third base soul going for the 4th. Stalkers have warped in. We shut down the libs. Not bad. But the freedom is still here. We have plenty of freedom. Novas are thrown down. Oh. The splits are good enough. Boys are being pulled. And this Bio Army going ham. Can we avoid these Novas? Enough. And there it is. GG gets called. Oliveira, snowballing out of control, takes game number 1. Whew. GG. Again, that was a brutal engagement from Classic to get basically 360 surrounded. Like it wasn't a full surround, but he was also flanked by rocks, so there was just no escape. There was no way in. That was a brutal position to be stuck in, and that was the best case scenario for Oliveira. Like that was the perfect fight he could have hoped for. It was wild. And with that, GG. GG, well played. Oliveira does take the first game, and now we're getting ready to dive into game number 2 on Oceanborn. Let's go. Oh, siema, papi, siema. Dzień dobry. Good day. Is this live? Yes, the cast is live, but it is a replay cast from events that occurred a couple of days ago. But here we go. Spawning in the bottom right-hand corner of Oceanborn, we have our Red Terran player representing Dragon Kai Z Gaming for the land of China, leading the series 1-0. It is Oliveira. And spawning in the top left-hand corner, we have his opponents. We have the blue Protoss player representing Twisted Minds. Down in this series, can he bounce back? He needs to here and now to force the ace match. It is Classic. Catching up with the chat. There is no more season finals for KSL. Currently, there is not. So at the start of the broadcast, I mentioned how the KSL currently is struggling. It is fully funded by the community, for the community. For those that don't know, the KSL is funded by a Patreon, !KSL in the chat. Hold on, I got you. !KSL in the chat, and you can get a link to the Patreon. And the KSL was really successful last year when it first popped off, but support for the KSL has waned over the past year. And it turned from a weekly, now it's a bi-weekly, now it's every 2 weeks instead of every week. We still host it, of course. We still cast it, and we still try to organize this as often as possible. And there was a season finals last year called the KSL SummerSlam. It was really exciting. It was a KSL SummerSlam because of how successful the Patreon was. Nowadays, a little bit less so. There's a little bit less money there. I do know that Dave and Chicken Man, they're the two minds behind KSL. They want to host another season finals, but the support needs to be there for it. So if you're interested, you can support the KSL via the Patreon link. Otherwise, I do know that Dave and Chicken Man, they're in the works of doing something to help bring eyes to this event and to promote the Patreon and to promote the event as well. I do know that they're in the works for something. We'll see what. We shall see what. So I wish them both the best, and of course, as always, we'll always be there to help and to support. Always, happy always. As for now, it is going to be a interesting Rax expand. Okay, a more economic opener this time from Oliveira. I mean, I say economic opener. It was a single gas opener, but it was a factory before CC, so very interesting build here from our Terran player. I'm curious how this all kind of works out. Our gases are going to be delayed. We do have a faster expansion, but not as fast as it otherwise could have been. So rushing into our 1-1-1 setup. Alright. Oliveira, he's cooking. Is cooking. Is going reactor and marine this time. Makes sense, just because of our lack of gases that we had. As it's being spent elsewhere here on the starport. And on, I imagine, the fast medevac. Yeah, this is a really interesting opener, and I'm curious how this all works out. Meanwhile, back at home, Classic going for a Gate Cybercore expand, this time going for a Twilight Council, not a Stargate. If you recall, the opener from Classic was a little bit lackluster. The Oracles didn't do a lot of economic damage, especially early on, and because we deviated away from Phoenixes so early as well, the drop play just snowballed out of control, and I don't know if I would say that, but it did quite a bit. It was quite successful. I did set Oliveira up. Meanwhile, yep, we're rushing into an insanely fast medevac here to go for a drop. A very interesting drop here with Marines. We could move out with our Cyclone as well on the ground to support. And we'll see if Classic can keep up with this. As for now, he's moving out with his initial Stalkers to contain, to deal some damage, maybe disrupt the economy. Does run into the drop! The medevac! Takes too many hits and the medevac goes down! Oh my god, the Cyclone as well! Not like this! GG gets called! The opener falls on its face, and Classic ties up the series 1-1. GG. GG, but it was it was a really exciting, explosive game 1. I was looking forward to game 2. Feels bad, man. Yeah, it was a really interesting build from Oliveira, and I was really curious to see how much damage it would get done. It was so unfortunate, so unlucky that Classic happened to be moving out across the map, happened to be in position. It's not like Classic knew what was going on. He was moving out to apply pressure to the natural, to delay the CC if possible. Like, that's why the Stalkers were there, and they just came across a full medevac drop. It's like, oh, I'll take that, sure. Okay, thank you, Bobby, thank you. GG, well played. We're going to the ace match. We're going to game 3. Oliveira was cooking, but I didn't get to try his food. I didn't get to try it. Neither did Classic. Smooch. And now we're getting into the ace match here. Ghost River. Oh boy, a very interesting map of choice here for game number 3. Much more aggressive map. And here we go, spawning in the top left-hand corner of Ghost River. We have the red Terran player representing CranKy Z Gaming. Was recently leading the series, but now forced into the ace match. Can he bounce back? It is Oliveira. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the South Korean Protoss player, the blue Protoss representing Twisted Minds, tying up the series 1-1, forcing the ace match. And can he keep that momentum going? It is Classic. See in chat, I've been up since Light was live yesterday. Sleep is for noobs. Oh, get some sleep. Oh my, what are you doing? you're an animal, Bobby. You're an animal. To be fair, I did stream late until quite late last night. But okay, get some rest, Bobby. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. As you see Classic moving out with his first probe, he's scouting, checking for proxy locations here towards the third base location before moving out across the map and scouting our opponent. Back at home, Oliveira is now going for a double gas opener, which makes sense on a map as small as Ghost River. I'm going double gas, going for a faster factory. In case Oliveira was the one being cheesed or proxied, Oliveira would be in a much better position to shut it down. So again, a very safe opener here from Oliveira. Back at home, Classic going for his Gate Cyber Expand. Once again, standard opener. We haven't really deviated too much from this. It's been the same opener of choice from Classic every game so far. Game 1 was, of course, a Stargate opener. Game 2 was Twilight Council into Blink. We never got to see the Blink, but was Blink-based. And I imagine we're going to be seeing another Blink opener here on Ghost River as well. Because how small the map is, because how aggressive the map is, it's usually considered safer and a little bit safer to go for a Blink opener, greedy to go for a Stargate opener. But we'll see. As for now, there's that factory on the way. We have our initial reactor. I believe it is Marine first into the reactor. And from here, we can go into Reaper production. Similar to game 1. We'll keep an eye. Interesting, going straight for the tech lab. We're going for what looks to be a one base all-in. Again, we go straight for the tech lab. There is no command center inside, no CC. And Marines are amassing. Are we rushing a tank? Are we going for a one-base tank all-in? Show us the tank production, Papi. There it is! Let's go! Now, Oliveira is one of the few Terran players out there that I attribute one-base all-ins to in this matchup. One-base all-ins are very rare in TVP, but I've seen Oliveira do it more often than most, and Gumiho as well. Like, they're willing to spice things up, like, you know, once a month sort of thing. That's what often means, because it's very rare. It's but here we go. So we have our tanks on the way. We have the medic in production as well. Again, we spoke about how small Ghost River is, the map I mean, and we opened Stargate. Uh-oh. This is dangerous. This is maybe a little bit too greedy. Oliveira's rolling the dice. Oliveira, he hasn't scattered. Oliveira has not seen a single thing, and so happens to be going up against a Stargate opener. This is ideal for the Terran player. The reason why I say this, Phoenixes against pushes, they can pick away at like reinforcements, they can lift up tanks, they can pick away at medevacs, true, but you need to build up a Phoenix count. It takes a while. It takes a while to build this Phoenix count up and to actually be effective. The army's been spotted, boys are being pulled, now we know what's going on. Back at him, what do we have? We have one shield, we have 3 adepts, and a Phoenix. That is our army, and Oliveira, he's going straight for the main, sorry, straight for that pylon. Luna depower and deny warp gate. Uh-oh, warp gate, it's almost done, but the pylon is so low. And can we focus on the Phoenix? We get 1 Phoenix already. We bleed off a couple of Marines. The medevac does get the hell out of there. With only 1 Phoenix, the medevac will survive. We can repair. And we just chop off the rest of the units. And now we're going for the natural. Again, we're down to 1 Phoenix. We have a Void Ray on the way. The Void Ray will help. Again, I really like this adaptation out of Classic. We need those Void Rays. Shield batteries are on the way. Cannons, they're getting within range. First shield battery goes down. No overcharge. And we're going to keep pushing. Warp gate did complete. But we only have the 1 gateway. Only have the 1 gateway. Void Ray, another one goes down. We did focus on one of the tanks, but we still have 1 more. As the Freedom is here, Phoenix falls, nothing left in the air. And sure, there are 3 shield batteries, but they're all exposed. They're all going down one after the other. Again, we're just trying to hold on. This Void Ray should barely pop out. Barely. Once again, every shield battery goes down. We do get that Void Ray out. Do we go for the tank? But there's 2 tanks. We can't push in. The ground army just cannot engage with the Liberation Zone with 2 tanks. Yeah, the ground army is just being bullied back. Void Ray comes in from behind. We do go for the Liberator. Up. Do we get it? We barely will, but we trade out the Liberator for the Void Ray. Void Ray goes down. We get another tank. We're down to 1. But the Stargate is exposed. We spoke about this unique feature of Classic as he goes for the Stargate on the low ground. And the Stargate is depowered. No more Void Rays. Boys are being pulled. And Oliveira, he's just cleaning up whatever is left here at the natural base. Liberator doesn't go down. GG gets called, and Oliveira takes the series 2-1. GG. Oh my god. GG, well played. A very, very dynamic series here. Game 2 was a little bit lackluster, and there's so much that came into Game 3 that's also very Classic specific there. It isn't just that he went for the Stargate opener, but if you remember, we pointed it out at the start of Game 1. When Classic also opened Stargate, and a unique feature about Classic is he is very fond of throwing down his Stargate at the natural of all places, just because it does, you know, give his second pylon a little bit more purpose when it comes to walling off and throwing down shield batteries, but at the same time it also allows the Stargate to be a little bit more hidden, a little bit more difficult to scout as well. It's not at the obvious location in the main, but that also means that it's vulnerable to an all-in like this, as we just saw, right? It's like where you could just camp their production, depower the Stargate as well. On top of that, short rushes by ground. On top of that, it was a Stargate opener as well. Like, oh my god. GG, well played. Oliveira eliminates Classic from KSL, which is a pretty big win. I would say that Classic was favored coming into this series. Classic is straight up second best Protoss in Korea, one of the best Protoss in the world, and Oliveira has been struggling as of late. Has been struggling. At the same time, this was a very chaotic series, and at least I appreciate what Game 1 gave us. Game 1 was more of a macro back and forth, right? We got to sink our teeth into Game 1. Game 2 and Game 3 was chaos. We got a bit of everything. We got a bit of everything here. GG, well played. Oliveira advances on to the semifinals, and we are here to determine who else advances on to those semifinals as well. We still have 2 more quarterfinals matches ahead of us. Up next is Solar versus Creator. Let's go.